14th of July 2026, Andy Serkis defends a lack of diversity in the Lord of the Rings cast. And he's directing the next Lord of the Rings film. So The Hunt for Gollum is kind of referenced, I believe, in the appendices to The Lord of the Rings. It is based on something that Tolkien actually wrote. Here we have a very nice picture of Anya Taylor-Joy. Her, Jamie Dornan, and Kate Winslet will all star in the new Lord of the Rings. Throughout his career, 62-year-old Serkis has been a campaigner for equality. In 2018, he said that being one of the few white actors in Black Panther gave him a new understanding of what it feels like to be the ethnic minority on a film set. However, the previous Lord of the Rings films, made before colorblind casting became common, had almost entirely white lineups. Oh my God, how awful. Entirely white lineups. How do people still watch those movies without getting sick? And so far, his film looks like being the same. Every major cast member announcement to date has been white. What a bunch of mid-20th century Germans. How do they live with themselves? Jamie Dornan, Anya Taylor-Joy, Kate Winslet, Leo Woodall, as well as the returning stars, including Elijah Wood and Sir Ian McKellen. The question is, why? Why are all these evil white people allowed to be in a movie together? Just being white on screen with each other. It's horrendous. Serkis nods his head before answering, and it is clear that this is a subject he has given a lot of thought. Tolkien himself was influenced a lot by Norse mythology, so there's a lot of that feeling. The Shire feels very, very much like a very white, the Shire, a very peaceful, very calm place that people have built lovely lives for themselves. It's very white. Yes, it is. He tails off and pauses before continuing with greater certainty. They're not very concerned about what goes on beyond the borders of the Shire, but they know they don't want people coming in. Yes, there have been criticisms, he says, acknowledging arguments that are now almost a quarter of a century old. This particular film, The Hunt for Gollum, is somewhat acknowledging that, but I don't think we'll be doing a politically correct, just casting for the sake of casting and ticking boxes version of the film. So it's where relevant, basically. So The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, it's very much based on European culture, on Norse bits, on Germanic bits, on British bits in terms of the British Isles. So where it's relevant is the bits of the world that Tolkien established but didn't talk about very much, didn't write about very much, so the East and the South. Although several major stars have been cast in The Hunt for Gollum, further casting announcements are expected in the coming months. So, perhaps among the agents of Sauron, perhaps. And then it goes on to talk about George Orwell's Animal Farm, his big screen version that Andy Serkis adapted. He said some awful things about that. I won't be watching it. But anyway, back to The Lord of the Rings. So yeah, this awful lack of diversity. How are we possibly going to cope watching a film with only white people in? I'm just not really sure. But this has been something of a topic that people have been discussing recently. For example, here's an article back from January 2026 from Deadline. BBC told to avoid clunky colourblind casting and preachy anti-colonial storylines in drama series. So culturally, the conversation is definitely shifting about sort of colourblind casting. The BBC has been urged to rethink colourblind casting, tokenism, and preachy storylines about the UK's colonial history. The thematic review of portrayal and representation across BBC output found that clunky depictions of race can cause more harm than good. The review noted that colourblind casting was a matter of controversy for commentators and some viewers. The report said good intentions to increase diversity can lead to inauthentic outcomes that can sometimes be damaging to the communities they are attempting to serve. And for me, this kind of paragraph here, this is the crux of it, in depicting an anachronistic historical world in which people of colour are able to rise to the top of society as scientists, artists, courtiers, and lords of the realm. There may be the unintended consequences of erasing the past exclusion and oppression of ethnic minorities and breeding complacency about their former opportunities. And this is, as I say, I think this is kind of the crux of it. On the one hand, you want to say the past was different. Societies were more racist. People who didn't belong in those societies didn't have the opportunities. And then you have people making fiction, essentially making a kind of fantasy light version, saying, oh, someone can be black and be an 18th century Duke of England, which is just factually nonsense. That didn't happen. And that sort of destroys the real world argument. What needs to be avoided is ethnic diversity, which looks forced and tick box. And we found our interviewees of colour as emphatic on this point as those who were white. So this isn't just white people complaining, this is all types of people complaining about the rubbish that they're being served by the BBC. And not only the BBC, Netflix is guilty of this, many other production companies are guilty of this as well. And yeah, you could make the argument that, look, it's just fiction, it doesn't really matter. But then consider doing this to stories from other cultures. Consider Mulan, for example. Mulan is a Chinese story, it's an East Asian story. If you're watching Mulan, you expect to see East Asian characters. Do we need to see black people in Mulan? Is that necessary? Or can we just enjoy the story as an East Asian story on its own merits? What about Black Panther? Do we need a white Black Panther for people to turn up and enjoy that movie? No, we don't. It was a very successful movie because people actually liked the movie as it is. I don't understand this argument that you need to see your own gender or your own skin colour represented in a piece of fiction to actually enjoy it. In that case, why is Avatar so successful? I have personally never met a skinny blue alien, and yet Avatar has taken billions of dollars at the box office. Avatar is incredibly successful without anyone being a blue skinny alien and being in the audience. I think the people who advocate for this diversity are severely lacking in empathy. I think what you need is a good story. That's what it comes down to. Just make good stories.